Hi, my name is Colette Rabba, and I'm with Orion Realty. I'm a residential real estate broker in the GTA West, an income property specialist, and an investor myself. The reason why Araceli and I like to do this show is because we're both investors and we love to give great information to viewers and listeners just like you.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is Araceli, Transition Wealth Advisor and real estate investor in the US and Canada. I'm here today with my partner Colette. Colette, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rabba. I am a realtor, or see, I always mess that up. I'm actually a broker in the GTA West. There is a difference. But anyway, I sell houses. I buy houses. I help people buy houses, that sort of thing. You guys all know that. Welcome to the show. We have a great show today. One of my favorite and one of Araceli's favorite subjects
Yes, absolutely.
too, because we both love investing. That's why we do the show. And so today's subject is all about fixer uppers.
Uppers, right? Yeah. This is something that, if you want to become an investor, to start developing an eye for it because in the surface, it might look bad, but it's sometimes not as bad as you think it is. So we're going to show you a
Exactly.
couple of things that you need to watch for.
You know what? We should do a bad cop, good cop thing. I just thought of that now because honestly, even though you say, oh, you know what, there are things that you want to look out for. Obviously, this is why we want to talk about
Yep.
this because there are some things that you just gotta walk away. You
Oh,
have to.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I don't know if you've done that, but I've had to walk away from
Oh,
a few
yeah, I
times.
have a few properties that they seem to be okay. But then when you go deeper into looking at the due diligence and the things that we're going to talk about today, then you have to say, no, this is way too much work. I'm not
Right.
going to do it.
And we have to have a little disclaimer too, because what we say on the show is really just information to have you think about things. But honestly, you want to hire the right people, you want to hire professionals, you want to do your due diligence, get lawyers, make sure that if you're unsure about something, get a professional to give you a second opinion or a third opinion. If let's say we're talking about fixer uppers today, get contractors. If you're friends with someone, they're just another set of eyes to come and take a look.
Yeah,
So always make sure you protect yourself,
yeah. So
especially when you're spending a
make
ton of money.
make sure that you hire professionals. Don't ask your neighbor or your
Yeah,
friend that they
or
might
your
know
your
have the
brother.
knowledge to it. So just make sure that you hire the right professional for what you're asking about.
Well,
Most of them, yeah.
if your neighbor is a contractor
Of
or
course.
home
I'm just talking
inspector,
about a regular neighbor, not
yeah,
somebody
right.
that is a contractor. If you have a contractor as a neighbor, bonus.
Yes, you're very lucky. Okay, so I have a presentation I'm going to
Let's
share
get
with
started.
you. Let's get started and take a look at my pretty pictures and all the good information. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
How's that? Okay, so this is one of my favorite pictures too. Obviously, you can find all these photos online. I don't think this is a Canadian property only because of the landscaping
Yeah.
materials. This doesn't look, it looks like a hotter climate, but
It
doesn't matter. This is a
looks,
very, yeah,
yeah.
but this is a very typical style house. So siding, you see that in Ontario, you see that in the US, right?
Those are the type of houses that I usually buy. So this is very, very typical.
Yeah, and look at it's just gorgeous. I'm just so impressed by this. So that's why I
Oh,
wanted
absolutely.
to yeah, I wanted to see this picture. Anyway, so they did a great job. So the first thing we have to decide if you are a buyer, what are you going to do? Are you going to use it to flip it or are you going to live in it? Because what does it make a difference?
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Why? Why does it make a
Why?
difference?
Well, there's a couple things that you want to look at. First of all, is the use of the how you want it on a regular
Araceli,
basis, but also the cost. The cost is important.
I
Okay.
wanted you I wanted you to say your line. I was setting you up.
That
Everything.
everything touches money. That's that, right?
Right. And it's also it's time or money. So that's what I like to say is do you have the time to work on it yourself and save some money? And if you live there, you might actually have, you could do it yourself. You could probably spend more time doing it And in the long run, if you're there for 5 years, 10 years, you don't have to do all the renos right away. So here's another great example of a beautiful fixer-upper.
Yeah, that's
Really,
awesome. Very
yeah.
exciting.
But that's really, it's all dependent on cost and time and budget. So you really have to decide, what do you want to do? You can always have a plan B if you need to sell it earlier than what your plan was. But
Yeah,
that's something, if you know right away you're going to not live there, that's a whole other trajectory that you really have to think about with money, right?
yeah. But sometimes, and just to go back to it, it's better to, if you can. I did it myself. I lived in the property for over a year while I was making changes. It was a little bit of painful, but you also have to decide, if you have a large family, might not work. But if for me it did, because I was there by myself, so I had no kitchen for about 6 months. So I had a
Yeah.
really hot plate and everything, and it worked okay.
Yeah,
But
I've done that too. Yeah, but it's the kids. I've done two renos where one I had small children, I also didn't have a kitchen. I wanted to shoot myself. And then I had another reno that I did that wasn't,
exactly. So
nobody
you
was
have
living
to
there.
really pick your battles. Like, how far do you want to go with it? What are the needs that you currently have, the family members that are there. Remember, there's going to be dust, there's going to be changes, they're going to be moving around furniture if you have furniture. So you have to pick your battles and say, you know what, maybe we'll wait a little bit, maybe a
Right.
couple weeks to at least finish the kitchen or something like that, right? So,
Right. And the other thing too, when you look at the age of the house too, there might be asbestos in their house. There might be other issues that are detriment to your health. There might be mold. So
yep,
especially when you find a house that you have children and you think you can move in and easily renovate, it's not easy. It's really, especially for the kids to be displaced. They're not in their bedroom right away, or they're not. It depends on the size of the renovation
yep.
too. If it's just cosmetic, absolutely, that's no problem. But if you're thinking about changing walls, like this house in particular, the photo that I chose, this, if this is what the outside looks like, inside is going to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing that is so, so, so
Whoa.
important. Oh, don't you love this house? This is a
I
Hello
love the
Kitty.
house. I love the pink. Hey, who
Yeah,
doesn't want to
yeah.
live here?
I,
The
I actually,
kitty's house. Come
this
on.
is it. I don't even know where the house is, but this is a shout out to my daughter because she loves Hello Kitty and she loves pink. So I thought, okay, but I did it to prove a point though. So even if it's a cute house and it's, maybe this is not your taste, but even if it's a cute house and it looks great, you still have to check these huge things because if you ever decide to sell it, these are things, or live in it too. Like you want it to be safe. So the big five is also a big thing for safety. So the big five is foundation, not in any order too. I was trying to find what do you call that? Like um,
In
to
order of importance, you mean?
no, not importance, or like just to try to remember all of these five things because sometimes I'm in a house with my seller or my buyers and I go, okay, what are the five things? And I try to remember them by, whatever way I can remember. So you can't really,
Yeah, there's really nothing
yeah,
that you can
yeah.
really.
Anyway, you just have to remember them.
I
So,
also just, when I see a house, I know what to look for. Of course, the first thing that you see would be the windows, right?
but windows are not on the list.
I know, but I think it should be part of it.
Okay, so
Because
let
I
me
know the
tell you.
roof of windows is one for me,
Well,
right?
yeah, so this is how I remember it. You got to remember the top and the bottom. So
Yes.
roof and foundation, or foundation and roof. Okay, so those are the two things that's easy to remember. The main things inside are mechanical and plumbing and electrical. So those three things, that's easy to remember that way. The windows and doors, it doesn't make my list because those are things that are easy and not terribly expensive to change if there is a problem.
It depends because sometimes what happens, for example, the last property that I have, it has 57 windows.
I agree. I agree. But on the onset, too, those things, I'm sorry to say it. I can't believe I'm actually saying it, but it's true. it doesn't make a difference when you go to buy or sell it, unless they're very, very old, like we're talking single pane windows and things like that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to windows and doors, it really does not bring you back any money. So we're talking about fixer-uppers and what to change and what to look out for. So absolutely, I agree with you on the sense of you have to see them and look at them and see if they're half decent. But on the onset, it's not really gonna, if they're within 20 years, even
Right.
30 years out,
Well, I tell
you're
you
okay.
why I put him on my list because the properties that I buy, they're mostly from auction. And at the auction, a lot of
Right.
the things are very, very badly damaged. So I want to know, this is a little bit of a higher ticket item if you have to replace all the windows, because you cannot just replace one and then
Of
one
course.
is new and the other ones are, really
Right.
old. So when you have to, I look at, if more than 20% of the windows are bad, then I have to replace them all,
Well,
right?
just don't buy a house with 57 windows.
No, well, this thing is massive. You have
Yeah.
to see it in the summertime. So
I'm so looking forward to it. Like we keep every time we talk about during COVID, we're like, when can we go? When can we go?
I
So
know,
hopefully.
believe me, I can't wait. So,
Yeah, I'm on it. My car is full of gas. Let's do it.
all right.
Anyway, so despite the whole my little Hello Kitty picture, these are the things, even if it's a brand new house, you still have to check the top five. Look for cracks. So even the cracks in the brick, even after a few years, if a house is like under, let's say, 10 years,
Yeah.
you can still see cracks in the foundation, cracks in the brick.
So,
Learning things about foundation. Is it a block construction or is it a poured foundation? All these things make a difference later on too.
yeah,
It might age
absolutely.
differently.
And
Yeah,
the thing is, don't think that because a house is new, it's not going to have a crack foundation. It
right.
actually, in the first 10 years, is when the major things, because the house moves, right?
100%.
So that it could cause, you also don't know if you have a big tree and a root that is growing and pushing the foundation. So do that anyway. It doesn't matter what the age of the house.
Right, right. And you know what? Like these are the big five. That's why I call it the
Yeah.
big five. There are other things that you should always look out for, but let's just say for the sake of time today too. And those are the things. These are the highest ticketed, like honestly, changing windows, you can do maybe just the one side of it,
Yeah.
if you have time to do it. And also for resale, if you just change the facade windows,
Yeah.
obviously, that at least will make a small improvement, if
Yeah,
not,
this
can't
house,
purchase
it can
all of
be
them.
gorgeous. It's just, just get rid of the get rid of the kitty that. But this is something that is easily fixed.
But guess what? When somebody is driving down the street, they'll say, "Well, which house is yours?" Oh, it's okay. It's the Hello Kitty house.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's move
Oh,
on. So you have to also consider the renos for higher resale. So even if you're going to live there for whatever 5, 10, whatever years, you have to think consciously, okay, am I doing it for me and I'm going to put like terrazzo tile everywhere and it's totally not the style? Or is it something that, I've seen houses with black ceilings. Why? Why does anybody do it?
really?
That person who was living there decided to do it for them, not for resale. So
Oh,
please
okay.
think about resale and the renos for higher. You're doing the reno anyway, you might as well do it thinking about higher resale value too.
Absolutely. Always
Plan
pick a
B.
very neutral, nothing complicated, straight lines, standard material. Don't buy something that is specific or that you have to
Right,
order especially because if something breaks, like a tile,
right.
now it's
Ugh,
very hard to get it. So
right.
try to get
Yeah.
everything standard from, either Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever you want to buy. And so you don't complicate yourself.
Okay.
Otherwise,
And
it's very hard to repair.
since I bought my first house, which was, I can't even tell you how many years ago, 20, I don't want to age myself, but anyway, let's just say it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I remember, even when I was living in an apartment, the one thing that I swore to myself that I would never do, and I never have done, I always put white fixtures in the bathroom. White toilet, white sink.
Yep.
It any, if you remember the 60s or the 70s with the avocado toilets and
Oh
purple toilets,
yeah.
it's going to age.
I have a few of those that I got a pink one and a blue one. So don't do that, even though you think it is cool, but don't
Yeah.
do it.
No gold, please. No harvest gold. And the other thing too, just take it one step further, do white tile. White tile is timeless. I don't care who you are, where you live. White is always in, especially now. So you can see in the picture that I got actually the kitchen is white too. That's a whole other thing too. But when it comes to a standard, like we're talking about regular houses, we're not talking about multi-million dollar houses that
Yeah.
you really can do designery, whatever. These are standard, regular $1 million homes now in the GTA. But think about what you want to do. Oh, and the other thing why I picked this picture is because they took out a bathtub and they put in a shower, like a flat shower. I recommend doing that only if you have a tub somewhere else in the house. Don't take your only tub out and replace it with a shower because a lot of people still like taking baths. And
Oh
if they
yeah.
have children, and you know what, to be honest, if I can say it quietly, I think I made a mistake when I built the cottage. I should have put a shower. I mean, I should have put a bathtub in. I have two bathrooms. I should have done one and I didn't.
But the thing is, the use of the house is a short-term rental, which,
Right.
I think it's safer in a way because people cannot just leave the water running
Yeah.
and, have a
Well,
flood,
it's
all of that
safety.
kind of stuff. So
It's
yes,
absolutely a
yes and
safety.
no, but I think it's fine. So
It's ease of use. Like even if people have a baby, they can put their tub in the shower stall,
yeah,
like a little tub and then bathe their child. So it's not, or even in the kitchen sink if you have to. But if the kid is old enough to stand, you can absolutely do a shower. But I know if it's a long-term house, there are lots of people that think, oh, especially first-time buyers, they're going to have children, they need a tub. So please don't take out your tub if that's the only tub that you have. Okay. Oh, sorry. So I didn't go through the list. But the other thing too is better lighting. Easy, easy fix to do. Really, really makes a huge difference. I see it all the time. I just showed a house last week. Same thing. Oh, the house is dark. I said it's easy to add pot lights. So
yeah,
please up your lighting as much
yeah.
as you can, believe it or
So
not.
just remember, when you are an investor, you really have to have another set of eyes when you're looking at
Yes.
the property. Don't look at just, oh my God, this looks terrible, or I hate the kitchen, or I hate the color. Colors,
Yeah.
cabinets, lighting, all of that is very easy to fix and it's very inexpensive as well. And you can
Yeah.
change the room really easily and very
Yeah.
quickly with those things.
Well, so there you go. So I added your upgrade doors, windows, and garage doors too, especially because if that is, let's say you have a room above the garage, that will make a huge difference when it comes to heating the house and for energy efficiency. So these are the things that like really you have to think of. You're renovating anyway.
Yeah.
Try and think of these things. And I have a couple bonuses at the end of this too. So we'll go through that. But
Yeah.
things like R value, insulation, if you're taking the walls down, if you're getting into your attic,
Yeah.
do the R value, up your R value. It will save you so much money in the end. Maybe you won't see it, but you'll absolutely know it. And when it goes to resale,
Yeah.
you can say upgraded insulation, and the R value is a number, and that actually does make a difference when you go to resell.
And I think that that was one of the reasons that investors think differently, because you look at the things that people will not see. The
Right.
foundation, most people don't say, "Oh, beautiful foundation," right? Like nobody's gonna go there.
I do.
Or or the
I'm
electrical.
crazy.
Like the
Yeah.
electrical is very, very important, but nobody sees it. They only see as the, oh, beautiful lighting, right?
I
But
think
they
you need
don't
a better
see.
realtor if that's what I
I think
point
it
out all
is
that
really
stuff.
funny, but
I absolutely
it is the truth. So you have to really look at the things that maybe kind of hidden in the wall. Just think about it that way. The
right.
insulation that Colette was mentioning,
Yeah.
it's super important. Nobody's gonna see it, but they're gonna feel it. They're gonna know that they're in a good house, especially in the wintertime, especially in Canada. You know that, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then smart tech upgrades. So we're going to talk about that a little later
Yeah.
too. So the next thing that's very, very important is how handy are you? when I started, and I'm sure you're the same way, when I started with my first reno, I really didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
But I know I was doing it for, actually, that's not true. I hired, let's just face it, I didn't do any of the work myself back then. I hired people, I hired professionals, especially the or actually the three major things: plumbing, electrical, and if you're going to take any walls down. Those are the three big giant things that you should not be touching. I don't care unless you're just changing a light fixture.
Yeah.
If the electrical is already there, okay, fine. But if you really are not a professional electrician, please hire an electrician, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there is, it's safety, first of all, right? And then second, if you do something wrong, it might damage the property in a big way. So
And you might not get insurance on it. So if you say I hired a handyman and they touch the electrical, this is very important. That might, if that handyman does not have their electrical license, your insurance might not fill your claim if something happens.
correct. Yeah.
So be
So no,
very,
you want to
as
be
a
safe
homeowner.
there. But at the same time, if you are handy, there's lots and lots of things that could be fixed. Um, Most of the cosmetics, painting, changing light fixtures, maybe changing, the plates on the wall.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
you might be able to even change cabinets in the kitchen, right? So all of
yeah,
that, it's simple work if you are handy. Some people, they
yeah.
just don't want to do it at all, and they don't even know how to do it. The same when I started doing renovations, the same thing. I actually put floors down and I did walls. I don't think I'll ever do walls again. Not my
Yeah,
cup of tea. It was
no
very difficult,
drywall.
I tell you, very difficult. If that's an art
Oh
to
yeah,
do
I
wall
agree.
correctly. So
Okay, if you want to laugh at me, I've never done drywall. I've taken down drywall. Demolition is my
oh,
favorite thing. If you
demolition I
need
can
anybody,
do, man.
yeah, call us. We'll do your demolition for free. It's
No, no,
easy.
no, no,
Well,
free.
maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to feed us at least. So
Yes, at least, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it has to be like close to where we live. So it's not
for
like
sure.
we're not going out for hours. No, but I love demolition. But the other thing too is even with demolition, you have to really know what you're doing. If you're taking down a structural wall, you
Yeah,
got to know that you're okay with taking that wall down. So please hire professionals to do all that stuff or just to give you the advice before you go crazy and, start knocking down walls and stuff. The other thing too is
absolutely.
knocking down is easy, putting back up is not so easy. So if you
That's
think,
right.
oh, I can rebuild this wall, even to just drywall a section, that's not easy. It's
I
really not.
actually done it. It's not, I'm not too bad at it, just repairing
Okay, yeah,
actual drywall, but I
I
don't
suck
think
at
I
repair.
like to do the whole thing. And the ceiling, doing drywall in the ceiling, it's very difficult.
Get
You
it.
need
Yeah.
special tools. No, I wouldn't even do it. So
Yeah.
I
You
will
know what the
leave it
hardest
for you.
thing for me is to know here is a piece of drywall, and then you have to cut out like a little hole for the electrical or for a grate or something. I just can't I can't do it. My math sucks. Like I can't, you know. Okay, here's the drywall minus this, cut it out at this height, at this width. Anyway, that's my problem. Okay, so next one. Let's slide. Oop, did I go past?
I think you went too fast.
Hold on, did I go too fast? Yes. So this is well, one of the most important things too. You got to price everything out before you make an offer even. And that's really hard if you don't have professionals to know what they're talking about. So I'm one of those professionals because of my background. I do give people an idea of what they're going to spend. New kitchen, new bath, new flooring because I've done it recently and my feet are on the ground. I can see what's happening. I generally know the prices out there. Now with COVID, the prices have gone crazy
Everything's
in
changed.
right for a very specific kind of items. So things like electrical, any wiring, oh my gosh, that stuff has gone up crazy. But things like a light fixture, not so bad. You can still get pretty decent prices out there. So these are the things, really know your costs and really know like you have to stick to your budget. If you are flipping, if you're going to resell it right away, you got to keep those costs down.
Absolutely. So there is, some things that you can learn. There's a formula to it.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that you have to have either yourself or somebody else to have experience about how to pricing the items that are going to be repaired. Because
Right.
if you miss something, and believe me, it took me a long time to figure it out, because sometimes what happens is you go out there and talk to contractors and they give you a blanket budget and says it's going to
Right.
cost you this much, and you go, okay, so what if this happens or this happens or this happens, right? You don't know. And sometimes you just want to do a bathroom or a kitchen, right? But if you're doing the entire repair like I was doing, they usually give you a blanket pricing, and sometimes you just don't know where the major
Right.
bulk of the money goes, right?
Well, and a lot if you're really inexperienced too, the thing with contractors, you can hire or you can get quotes from three contractors and their costing is completely different. There's some
Yeah,
out of the ballpark, like they're not even close to what kind of budget you have.
yeah,
And when you say why, it's because they have a contingency plan. They have either 10, 15, 20% because they have their eyes in their head and they say, okay, well, guess what? I know if I take this wall down, you're going to have to replace the flooring and the ceiling, and that ceiling has popcorn, so I know you're going to ask me
yeah,
to take that out. The flooring has to be done, so we're going to have to redo the flooring. So all these things you have to really listen to when they're pricing the job out and ask them, why is it so different? Why is it so much higher? Sometimes they just don't want the job and they price you out crazy because they just, they have way too much on their plate. That's a
yeah,
whole other thing.
absolutely, absolutely. So
But the other
that's
thing,
you got to get to know the people that you're working with.
right,
And most importantly, if you are hiring somebody that is new or this is completely new to you, go and see what these people have done. Look at pictures, look at the actual work. If they have something going on,
right.
go and see what kind of work they're doing.
The other thing too is a lot of it is the quality of the product they're buying plus labor. So you can ask them, how much is this cost labor and how much is it the actual items? So a good contractor will be about 50-50. So it's not the cheapest product, and obviously they're not the cheapest labor. But when you come to a 50-50 mix, to me, when I hear contractors talk, that to me that's the sweet spot that I'd like. I don't want the cheapest product.
Yeah,
And I do want those guys to be happy and pay them,
yeah,
but not like crazy, difference and then you have a cheap product. That's the
yeah.
worst.
And
And the other thing,
some other thing that you can find here is some contractors say you can get the material and I will do the labor. But
exactly, yeah.
the one thing that I like about, especially contractors that have been in the business for a while, they
Yeah.
usually get a little bit of a discount. And I rather have a little bit better material
Yeah.
and then have a good labor that they know how to install it. So they
Right.
can either, I don't know, they might charge me whatever their discount is, but they take care of it. They go pick it up. I don't want to go and pick up like a big countertop and something breaks. And then
Absolutely.
you still have to take that time off, and also you may have to hire like somebody to help you, or maybe a vehicle that is large enough for you to get all of these things out. So
Right. Right.
in some case, to me, is if you have it all in, it's a lot better because they take care of it. They go there and pick it up. They know exactly what measurement they need. You don't have to worry about it picking up the wrong thing. Oh my God, I pick up at 24 inches and you want it at 36 inches.
Happened to me. It's happened to me. And if I
Happened to
wasn't
me too.
there to say, hey, guess what? This is incorrect. Don't even bring it in the house. Take it away.
That's
And
right.
I'm not paying for it. So these are the things. So like they're the small things, but that's like that one thing was a $500 mistake. That one little thing. So think about it. 500, 500, 500.
Yeah.
Like these things add up. If everything is wrong, and honestly, you have to be on site all the time. I'm glad you said that. The other thing I have to say too, because this is close to my heart, I actually really like buying secondhand. So when you buy doors, windows, plumbing, secondhand, you go to Facebook Marketplace, which is my favorite thing to find secondhand stuff. You have to be able to know what you're looking at because those pictures don't tell the whole story. You have to be able to go to that person who's selling that. I just bought secondhand doors and windows for my other project. I'm not going to talk about it until it's done. So these things, if you don't know what you're buying, you could be completely ripped off. It could be completely useless,
Exactly.
and then you've wasted money. So be very
Exactly.
careful about
And
secondhand.
you may not be able to return it because it's secondhand. So now you're stuck with it and then you have nowhere to put it in. So,
Absolutely. So when it comes to light fixtures, especially, there's lots of light fixtures out there. And if you don't know how to, let's say, rewire, if you buy a light fixture because it's beautiful, but it's like from the 20s or 30s, for sure you're going to have to rewire it. So do you know how to do it? It's not hard, but you kind of have to know what you're doing.
yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other show.
Well, fixing
So,
is really hard, but if you've never done it, of
but
course it's going to
again,
be hard.
going back to electrical, don't do stuff you don't know what you're doing. Please leave it to the professionals to do. The other thing too is permits. So here on the slide, it's a list of what you generally need a permit for. So things like, you can go through the list if you want, things like attaching a garage or an accessory structure. Make sure you know what the sizes are for your city or municipality.
Yeah.
Any interior renovations when you're moving plumbing or electrical, you need a permit. So don't move the plumbing if you can't. If leave the toilet where it is if you can.
Yeah.
Basement finishes, you should get a renovation permit for it. If you do an accessory apartment or a second suite, they want to know. The city is not after you to do anything. They want to make sure you're doing it legally. You're following the guidelines at least to do secondary apartment, especially if you're living with somebody. You both want to be safe, and it's mostly fire safety.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a
Safety
whole
number one.
safety number one, yes. So there's a whole bunch of other things too, especially things like fireplaces, making sure the chimneys are okay. If you're converting your wood fireplace to a gas fireplace, that's not one of the reasons why you get a permit. And that's what it says, direct vent gas fireplace. You can do that without a permit, as far as I know.
Yeah, but you need to get somebody that is certified to do
Of
it because
course.
gas is very, very important. You cannot
Yes.
afford to have a leak on that. So,
Exactly, yeah. So things like decks and porches and balconies, that's a tricky one because there are certain parameters that if you attach it to the house, yes, you need a permit. If it's over 24 inches high, yes, you need a permit. But there are all these things that you could add, uh, depending on the property, of course, that you don't need a permit for. So please find out from your municipality what you need a permit for.
exactly. So always, always check if you are not sure.
Yes, and then of course, since you're renovating anyway, have a moment to think about the future use and what buyers really want, because if you do end up selling this, let's say you're not going to live there forever, but you are going to eventually want to sell the house. Think about it a little bit. It's actually really, really great for resale value, especially when you think about putting in secondary units. The way prices are going these days, the houses that sell the fastest and for the most money are ones that have an apartment in it already done, or a nanny suite, or in-law suite. So sometimes with they don't want to say it's a legal apartment, but
Yeah.
so this house, which is very interesting, you can't really see it, but there is another entrance. See where the fence is?
Hmm.
There's actually a stairs going down and into a basement apartment. So I really like this picture. Anyway, and it's a new house. So these are the things that you have to think about now when you're renovating for the, possible selling in the future.
Yeah.
Basement
And
apartments.
if you are fortunate enough to have a house that is big enough that could accommodate this, and in some cases you won't be able to do it because either the property is not meant to do that or
Right.
you just simply don't have the space for it. So if you do have that, then try to look for ways to
Sure.
make another entrance. The basement is usually a really good place to start, but
Hmm.
you have to accommodate the entrance of the second person, right?
Right. Well, and that's the other thing too. You could also change it into a duplex. So even if you have a two-story house and there's a way to do it, but this also has a specific eye. So if you're looking at a house, say, I really need to have some income coming in to afford this house, really get the right realtor to show you this is the way it can be. If you can imagine it, we can do it this way. If it's
Yeah,
not
and
really
I
easy.
think that this is where we're headed right now, because obviously you've seen it right now that the house that
Oh,
sell the quickest are the ones that have some kind of a secondary,
income. Yeah, you can make income.
property, right?
Right. And
And
even
because
let's
our
say,
houses here are so expensive that most people will need, and actually it's encouraged to start generating some income from the property.
of course, yeah. So the other thing too is things that we don't really think about now, but they're coming. So things like upgrading the panel for electric cars, things like, hey, if I'm going to age in place, do I need an elevator or do I need a plug right near the stairs so I can
Yeah,
plug my little chair lift thing? So all these things, upgrading the insulation in windows and doors, that's another thing I see. It should be on the top five because we do keep bringing it up. So maybe I got to go back. It's top six then.
there you go.
But adding another bathroom, things like that. Maybe adding a dryer plug or a stove
Yeah.
plug,
And
in
even
the
if you
basement.
don't do it right away, but just kind of put a placeholder on that. Okay, this could, we can convert it easily to
Right.
a new
That's exactly what
bathroom.
I'm saying.
So
Yeah.
something like that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Think ahead. Even if you, like, we had a stove plug in the basement before we did the drywall. So you had the rough-in. We didn't actually have a stove down there, but we did the electrical. I had an electrician come and do all of the pot lights and everything else. So why not? I said, hey, I know where the stove is going to go. You
Perfect.
got to do a little bit of a plan before to know
It'll
where your
save you
kitchen is going
so
to be.
much time and so much money because then you don't have to rip everything out.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, so please think about that. Also, things it's called universal design if you're unfamiliar with the term. So, things like ease of use for door handles, toilet seats are higher, better lighting, things on dimmers, things that are on a timer so you
Hmm.
can save energy. These are all universal design things. So, last thing, these are your bonuses if you have the extra money, because Araceli agrees with me, everybody always needs storage.
The more storage you have, the better, believe me. Like even when I just recently moved, I moved from an apartment and I moved into a house, but the house, it's smaller and the layout was a little bit more chopped up. So
Yeah.
there was not enough room for me to have all these things that I had before. So the more storage you provide is better. It's not, I would say that it's more practical
Yes.
for people because everybody has Christmas things that you want to store that you don't use all the time. You have
Right.
big pillows and all the bedding and
Kids.
everything.
Kids have a lot of stuff.
And kids have toys and and maybe you have a pet that you can have this big bag of food. So all of
Right.
these things, where are you gonna put them, right?
Yeah.
And the more storage you have, I believe that I would buy a house that has more storage than one that doesn't.
Yeah.
That
And
would be
that's
my requirement.
100. You're right on the head with that. You hit it right on the head with that one because every time we go through with my buyers, we look at the storage and I make a point of saying, good storage. Look at this. So the one thing too that people generally forget about is their garage. You can add what I call a mezzanine or you can add this upper
Yeah,
level to your garage depending on the height because really cars are not that high.
yeah.
So when you think about I would still give you a little bit more space with the car, but when you think about all the Christmas decorations and the winter tires and all that stuff that you don't really need to touch like
All the
ongoing,
time, but you need the
right?
space for it. And depending on the size of the house, you may want to have a lawnmower or anything that is big, like a big ladder.
Yeah, what about a snow blower?
Oh, a snowblower. Eh.
Anyway, so yeah, that's to me, I agree with you 100%, Araceli. Even if you don't think you can fit storage somewhere, so that's why I have this beautiful picture of this IKEA. This is actually an IKEA wardrobe that they did a little bit more and they made it look like a built-in. They added trim
Nice.
to it. And it's really something that you can always take it away too. You're not changing the floor. So the floor is probably the same underneath. So if somebody really doesn't want that storage, they can remove it at a later date. But honestly, for me, I can't, the kids have so many shoes. Oh my goodness. Like, where do we put them all? So that's something that I don't have to worry about. I can just throw them in a closet and I have the closet space. So please add storage if you have the budget for it. It's always going to bring you back a good return. And it's not expensive. The other thing too is this is a nice to have, not necessary to have.
Yeah,
And depending, Araceli actually said this too, depending on who your buyer is later on. If you have younger people, 100% they love the techie stuff. If it's like a retirement village or retirement home, yeah, you probably don't want to put all these techie gadgets in,
exactly. Well,
so
in some cases, it could be a bonus. It's just depending. Know exactly where you are buying because
yes,
you'll have an idea. And especially like if you have younger kids, you know that the majority of people that are going to be there, they'll have younger kids. So they
right,
will be in certain age bracket that might be more inclined, especially now younger generations are looking everything online, everything on the phone, everything on the computer. And if you can give them something extra that kind of tip the scale, that would be great.
absolutely. And you know what? It doesn't matter how old or young you are, it's ease of use. So with tech, the easier it is, and I think the markets are following that now too. So when you look at your phone and it's just a touch, you can, click into a security camera or you can unlock a door. All that stuff, if it's easy to use, is a no-brainer. Just watch your prices because these things can get a little pricey, right?
Of course, you always have to be, if you're going to be living in the house
Yes,
for yourself, it might be worth to upgrade right away. But
right,
remember, always try to use everything yourself because I've seen it so many times that people want to sell and now they want to rip everything apart and make it pretty, right?
right,
If you know
right.
that that's going to happen, do it a little bit at a time while you're there so you have time to enjoy it.
Yeah, and don't overdo it too. There's certain things that you don't need, you really don't need the window treatments to open and close with your phone. So things like that, really know who your seller or your buyer is at the end. But the thing too, what I really like about tech is that it can save you money. So things that you can set your thermostat, you can set your lights on and off if you're not home. You can check to make sure the door is locked. Like all these things, it's also about cost and insurance. And to know that you have these things, you phone your insurance company and say, hey, I have this thermostat, I have this CO
Yep.
detector. They might actually be able to give you a little bit of savings when it comes to buying your home insurance. So always ask about that. And then thank you for joining us. So this is our beautiful picture again of this lovely
Yeah.
fixture upper. I just
I
love it.
I
I
love
love
it.
it.
And you see, this is some of the things that when I see this house, I say, oh my God, I love it, right? So that's what I wanted to say that remember, if you're becoming a real estate investor, start to develop that set of eyes that don't see just a pretty house, but what it could be, because
Right.
that's the value. You want to create that value in
Yeah.
between. So that is how you make your money. So that's
Absolutely.
that's what I
But
have to say.
like honestly, that last picture, I probably would not even get close to that house because I know how much that would have cost to renovate that house. And that's the other thing too about hiring the right realtor. Know what houses are selling for that have been fixed up and are newer. Maybe that house,
Absolutely.
honestly, when it came to the cost of it, depending on what it needed inside, maybe that was actually better to tear it down and build a whole new house,
Yeah,
depending on
it
the
depends,
cost.
but you gotta know the market because if you are in a market that is gentrifying and the house is really old, you may be
Right.
better off. You know that you're gonna have that new
Yeah.
value, and if
Right.
because you're buying the location, the piece of land, and
Right.
sometimes in some cases it works out much better than trying to renovate something because if
Yeah.
it is too bad, then the cost of repairing sometimes is higher than the cost of just tearing it down and just do it over.
Right. Or if you know that there's no way you can put a secondary unit in there and you say, okay, if I'm going to rebuild for the cost again too, for the cost of building a whole new house compared to renovating, and you get that uh, let's say you can put a semi-detached on a property that size versus just to renovate that house. So unfortunately, I love old houses. I'm not a proponent of tearing down something that still has life in it, but you really have to think of your needs and the market and what the world is going through right now. We have a shortage of housing. And how do we do it? How do we solve that problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just recap the whole thing. So we
Yes, please. Do you want
close.
me to go back? Do
No,
you want
no,
me to
no.
go back?
Just leave it
Okay.
at that. So what you have to think about is determine the use, if
Yep.
you are going to live in it or not. Check the big five, right? So the big five are foundation, then the mechanicals. What else? Help me
Roof,
out
so
here.
top and
The
bottom, roof and
roof.
yeah.
So the roof, the foundation. I like the windows
Yeah,
and
that's six.
all the mechanicals, right?
Electric and plumbing.
And electrical and plumbing. So that's
Yeah.
it. And then check the renters for higher resale. Just do exactly what you need to do. Don't overspend. Um, know when to hire a pro. So whether you are handy or not, whatever it is, just make sure that you hire the right professional. And then we have remember the price. Try to determine the cost beforehand so
Yeah.
then you don't go overboard.
Have a budget.
And then the bonuses would be what is the future use? You may be able to do a secondary unit in the future. Make sure that you put something. If you're already tearing down a wall, may as well to put some more electrical or something like
Absolutely. Yeah.
that. And then we have the bonuses would be to add in some tech and some storage if you have the budget for it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
all we have for today. I hope this helped. And if you do have any more questions or something that we didn't touch up on, and you are maybe looking at doing a flip or just live in it and renovate, please make sure that you have the right realtor to walk you through what you
And
want
the
to do.
right inspector and the right lawyer
The
and the
whole
right
team of
every
people.
team. Right. And know your finances. Don't go
That
overboard.
is the number one thing that you need to do.
That's right. That's right.
So that's all we have for today. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us,
Bye.
everybody. Bye. Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more information or if you have any questions, please go to my website at www.coletterabba.com.